Who was the dumbest person you ever met? How did you know? Girl in my class asked the professor if other countries have moons. 2. My best friend asked me this when I moved to Europe. She asked if I could see the moon there, or if it only existed for the USA. I had a guy at work tell me that Benjamin Franklin was the 100th president because he's on the $100 bill. She thought I was trying to trick her into believing that Adolf Hitler was real. But, like, were you? I know a guy who thinks the special tea he drinks negates the negative health effects of his pack-a-day smoking habit. I went to school with a girl that legitimately thought 9/11 was done by German Nazis. Pretty sure that was 9/11. We hired a girl a couple years ago. I told her where the manager's office was her first day. Second day, she asked me where the manager's office was. So I walked her to the door. Third day, she asks me where it is again. Our manager chewed out the girl who trained our new recruit for not teaching the job properly. The trainer pulled out her phone and showed the manager a picture of the girl wearing the uniform backwards and said, "Look at this. This is untrainable." New girl got fired about 3 weeks later for stealing the product because she thought she got it for free because she was an employee. A friend that told me that drinking protein shakes means that my muscles are all fake and fat. My stepdad literally told me the same thing yesterday. He said protein shakes give you fake muscle, and I was confused as to how he came to this conclusion. A guy at a job site said this to me in all seriousness. I am quoting, "If Hitler had put all the Jews on the Titanic, he could have saved himself a lot of trouble." I felt like I had a stroke. Someone asked me if Japanese was a real language. In high school. Twice. A girl in an AP US history class laughed at me when I was talking about driving to Alaska from Oregon. She insisted Alaska was an island because of how it is separated out on maps. I don't know if she was the dumbest person I met overall, but it was certainly the dumbest thing someone insisted they were right about. A girl at my high school didn't know you could get pregnant from cum. So, she learned that when she got pregnant. Please tell me she didn't. Unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. Had a girl tell me she was scared to give her black boyfriend a blowjob because I don't know if his cum would be white or black. That was definitely the moment I knew. Worked with a lady who I convinced you could buy full-size dinosaurs online. Also believed Denzel Washington was the president when Obama was in office. No lie. There was a guy who made fun of me because I was a pedestrian waiting a green light. Haha. Who's scared of motorized death machines? Pussy. A girl in my sophomore year of high school who thought there were 6 months in a year. She was really nice, but very surprised and confused when we tried to set her right. How did she get to high school without someone setting her straight? Well, you see, she got there in half the time. A coworker of mine sent an email to our company's global mailing list. Our company has 5,000 employees. The email contained a 1 GB attachment. It shut down the entire company for a day. A friend of mine still thinks cancer is made up by Big Pharma. Ooh, I've seen this one in the wild so many times. And as someone who grew up seeing that slowly waste away a parent, it really gets under my skin. I live in southern Spain. I once met a girl from the US who was here on some kind of exchange program. When I asked her how did she like Spain so far, she said, "I'm loving it. I just don't know why the plane took so long to get here. I mean, we are just a bit below Mexico. I don't know why the flight was so long." Then I told her that we were in Europe, and she didn't believe me. Her reply was, "Europe? It can't be. Everyone speaks Spanish, so we must be somewhere near Mexico for sure." She was in uni. I still don't know how or why. Oh Lord, strap in. This is a ride. Let me tell you about Sarah. Now, Sarah was, and remains to be, one of the sweetest girls I've ever met. She's the sort of girl who would give you the shirt off her back, and not think twice. The sort of woman who would allow a stranger to stay in her home without question. She routinely gives money to charity, and helps volunteer. She really is an angel, but Christ is that girl dumb. When we were in high school, I mentioned that I one day wanted a small farmlet, something just big enough so I could raise chickens. I've always liked chickens. And you get fresh eggs too. She looked at me like I had 3 heads and said, if you want eggs, you need goats. This girl had made it to our senior year in high school without knowing where eggs came from. Our class was talking about a fellow student who had been diagnosed with a very serious illness. His girlfriend announced that he had realized something was wrong when he began urinating blood. Sarah piped up with, "Oh my God. He isn't sick. He just got his period. I've had mine for like 4 years." Sarah and I were once driving her car in the late 90s, and her car battery died. We were only a mile away from my house, so I walked there, grabbed my car, and headed back. I parked, and lifted her hood. She asked what I was doing. I told her I was going to connect the jumpers, because her battery had died. This girl looked right at me and said, "My car runs on gas, not batteries." She legitimately had no idea that fish, the food, came from actual living fish. She decided she wasn't going to eat meat anymore. She would text me at all hours asking if the food she was about to eat was meat or not. I literally had to coach this woman, we were well out of high school at this point, on what meat products come from what animals. She still doesn't believe that tofu isn't from an animal. She thought France was in Canada. She thought all of South America was like North America, and one single country. She didn't believe that there was a North and South Pole. She asked me how planes ever got where they were going when the Earth was spinning so fast, and then followed up with, "Oh, I get it. They just go up and sit still until the place comes to them, right?" She thought hippos were made up, like unicorns. My sister-in-law is an anti-vaxxer and believes her kid's cerebral palsy was caused by vaccines despite the kid being born with a quarter of her brain physically missing. That girl is lucky. She could have been born missing her whole brain like her mother. My ex-sister-in-law is hands down the dumbest person I've ever encountered. There's literally a plethora of insanely stupid things she's said over the years, but I'll use the one that almost made me slap the taste out of her mouth. I had my first son back in 2001, and while I was pregnant she asked me if I was going to breastfeed, to which I replied that I was. She then asked even if it's a girl, and I said of course. She then proceeded to tell me that it's perfectly fine to breastfeed boys, but doing so with girls is creepy and could make the child a lesbian, because they get the feel of a breast and will remember it and want that sexually. To say that I was stunned by her thought process is an understatement. I asked her what she thought people did before formula was invented, and she said cow's milk. And before bottles were invented it was a rag soaked in cow's milk. Side note, she had 3 daughters and wouldn't allow her husband to change their diapers or bathe them. If she has girls, doesn't that mean only the man should handle them naked lest they get used to a woman's touch and les out later in life? You would think so, right? And I asked her that and she said no, because the maternal instinct cancels out any sexual desire. My high school physics teacher, he insisted that Canada was pronounced Canada because if they're Canadians, then why isn't it Canada? I have geography in 3rd period and this kid thinks there's 2 Floridas. Florida, Flo Rida, it checks out. They referred to a spork as the devil's utensil and said it was trying to blur gender lines in society by combining the feminine spoon and the masculine fork. Half of my science class thought that the International Space Station was just some building on the ground. Ah yes, the International Land Station. They thought dinosaurs were fictional. I knew a grown woman who thought that dinosaurs never existed, were a hoax that is being perpetuated through time by scientists trying to be in on the joke. Her main argument for this point: if dinosaur bones are real, tell me why it's only ever a paleontologist that keeps finding the bones. A friend of mine referred to the library in a video game as the bookshelf room. He normally says shit that makes you tilt your head, but that made everyone who heard that question his intelligence. I once met a guy that thought Obama was gonna take all the guns and there was going to be a civil war, so he bought around $3,000 of dried foods and water from one of those doomsday websites and bought a few weapons. Good move, Dad. I had a boss who told me that she never kept leftovers from a meal because that's how polio got started. They said the earth is flat and they weren't joking, they legitimately thought it. I used to work with the nicest person I've ever met. but he was also the dumbest. Even though he had been there over a year, he couldn't do anything beside washing dishes without someone watching over him. He just could not figure out how to do anything on his own. Someone, usually me, would have to watch over every little thing he did to make sure he was doing it right. It would have been frustrating if he wasn't the nicest damn person on earth. He was always so happy to see you and did everything with a smile on his face. Luckily he could wash dishes like a beast. I'm not exaggerating when I say he could wash dishes faster and cleaner than anyone I have ever met. That's the reason he would do other stuff, is because he washed dishes so damn fast we'd have to find other stuff for him to do. His wife was normal and all his kids were doctors or engineers. They were all crazy smart. What was kind of sad is that he knew he wasn't the smartest, but he was so damn nice.